what's in the box. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at what's in this box, which has been down here in my basement for quite a few months, and it's actually something I never thought I would actually come across, at least, well, without actually looking for it. That is the Colecovision. This is actually a pretty interesting, actually somewhat funny story with this. So the local thrift store that I go to every once in a while looking for old games, it's usually just like PS4, PS3, Xbox, and Xbox 360 stuff, some PS2 stuff. And a lot of the stuff is either stuff I either already have or I have zero interest in, because you can only play Madden so many times before, you know, it gets old and repetitive. But a couple months ago, I went in there and she had in her display rack a whole bunch of Atari cartridges, Atari 2600 cartridges. And I actually bought a few, and I said, what's the story with these? And she said, oh, they're about $3 a cartridge. I said, that's dirt cheap. So I bought a couple. I didn't remember which ones I did or did not have. Luckily, I did not have the ones I bought. And if I did, it's only $3. So I took a picture of my Atari stuff so I could take it with me next time so I can get stuff. But anyway, mixed in with it was three Colecovision cartridges, Gorf, Turbo, and Mousetrap. And I was like, oh, well, where's the console? I said, well, first I asked where the Atari was, and she said, well, they didn't win the bid for that, but they won the bid for the games. And I said, well, how much did you lose the bid by for the Atari? And weird thing here, somebody paid $300 apparently at an auction for an Atari 2600. I asked her, in the box or, you know, sealed, or did it come with a bunch of games? She goes, no, apparently just the console, a couple of controllers and the cords. I'm like, somebody either did not know anything of what they thought they were getting, or they assumed it was coming with a bunch of other stuff, because holy crap. Anyway, but she said that the gentleman that brought in a bunch of cartridges that she didn't get from the lot, a couple NES cartridges, Super Nintendo and N64 stuff, brought those in. And I said, well, where's the console? And she goes, well, he said that it was in his basement, and he thinks it got water damaged because his basement flooded. And they brought it down to there, and they plugged it in. It didn't do nothing. So he brought it down there, and it was just two of these weird joysticks I've never seen before, and a very clean original controller. Just one. This thing actually uses two, but no power brick, which absolutely did suck at first. But then he actually did bring the power brick in the day after I was there. So I kind of said, well, yeah, I'm interested in it. So I brought it home, and we're going to see if we can get this thing restored. So we're going to go into the computer room, which is now at least cleaned up enough where I can get in there and work on it. And we're going to see what's wrong with this thing. Yeah, we're back in my computer room. So I don't have everything done. This stool's going to break on me one of these days, and it's going to catch on camera me falling on my ass. But yeah, we're back down here in my back in my computer room, which is now finally at least set up enough to where I can do some actual real work. I have a TV, I can test stuff. I have my tools, which I'm missing a few screwdrivers. They're upstairs because I was doing some stuff. Anyway, yes, let's take a look at this Colecovision. And here it is. And as you can tell, it is very dirty, very disgusting. I want to see if I can save this, maybe reproduce it or something. But it's actually not in too bad a shape. Like, this is all intact. That's all intact. The switch is there. Reset button. There's the built-in RF modulator, which I believe it looks rough cut right there. And there's the very strange power jack. So in case anyone is curious, which I think some people might be, this is serial number 2172636, model 2400. Just in case there are some people that care about serial numbers and stuff, but yeah. So now the thing is, they plug this in with the power brick, and all it did was give a gray screen. So I want to open it up real quick. I want to make sure there's no internal damage, make sure there's no water damage. If there is, this might just be a lost cause, and I might just put it on my shelf just for decorative backdrop. But if it does work, or I can get it to work, then that would be outstanding. Philips. take this thing apart. So I have heard that this front panel can cause a little bit of issues trying to get it undone. So let's see if we can even take it apart. Oh, that came apart pretty easy. Can I like angle it forward or something? Oh, I can. I can kind of pry on that and get it to push away. Ooh. There we go. Okay, here we are. Besides being dusty, I don't see any evidence where there'd be any. I don't even see any insects in here, like any bugs. 1982 revision H2. That means anything to anybody? Let's take this heat shield off, or RF shield. Because yeah, even the connectors look pretty clean in there. So I don't think this thing was actually in any sort of water. Maybe it's because it gray screen, they just assumed it didn't work. Only 2 screws. Yeah, I know nothing about the Coleco except for this. This went up against the Atari 2600 back in '82. I don't remember. I think the wood grain was released around that time. Oh, that comes right off. Oh, nothing bad there, but look. That's a solder joint. This was soldered to the board. Yeah, look. Somebody might have been in here. But yeah, that looks pretty clean. I'll take a picture of this with my camera here in high quality 4K, and I'll point to some of the chips that I could at least identify when I get to that point. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Take this out. Oh. There we go. Take out the bottom RF shield. And then we can remove the whole motherboard. Yeah, that's actually pretty clean. This might actually clean up pretty nicely. Yeah. I'm gonna go get some cleaner and start cleaning this, and then I'll hit the motherboard. I mean, yeah, even if it doesn't work, this thing's gonna look pretty good. Okay. Let's tackle the top piece. Whoops. Forgot about the reset button and switch. Okay, so I want to try and take this off in one piece if I can. Oh, perfect. So I'm going to take that I have a gal at work that has a Cricut and stuff, and I think she has a pretty high quality scanner. I might see if she can scan that and uh, reprint it on uh, sticker paper. Because if not, it's no big deal, but I think it would look neat to have it. Put that somewhere neat. Okay. Little high strength alcohol. Oh yeah, that looks absolutely much better. This is gonna look so good sitting on my game shelf. Okay, cool. Okay, I set these aside to fully dry. Take a look at the motherboard or the main board real quick. Okay, so here we have the main board. I had the RF shield obscured for a moment, but these 8 chips down here, this is the RAM. It has a total of 16K of RAM. This chip over here is the Z80 CPU, used in a lot of other computers and game consoles. This is the video chip, the TMS S9928A. This was used in the Nabu computer, the Colecovision, the SG1000, the SC3000, the SpectraVision, the TI-994, Colecovision, and the Tomy or Tommy Tutor. The sound chip, the SN76489A. This was used in the TI-994A, BBC Micro, PC Junior, the Tomy or Tommy Tutor, and the Tandy 1000. And this chip right here is the BIOS. Alright, let's scrub this with some alcohol. And then we will let it dry, and then we'll try and see if it works. Okay, it's been a few hours, so that's nice and dry. I took the cover off the RF shield to just make sure there's nothing weird in there. And unfortunately, I can't see any of the chips. Not without desoldering that whole mess, and that is absolutely not going to happen. So, let's get this thing put back together, and then we'll, well, see if it works. So, yeah, it's actually been, as you can see, I kind of got this thing mostly put back together, because I completely forgot to record me testing the power supply, the power brick, and plugging it in to verify that it was doing the gray screen thing. I tested it. It wasn't working right, so I took it to work. Here are the voltages that it showed when I took it back to work. I had to put it back together, by the way, because I kind of tore it apart. So here are the voltages that it showed. This is the negative 5-volt rail, which is very strange that this computer even has negative 5 volt. Here is the plus 5-volt rail and the plus 12-volt rail. Now, obviously, those voltages are not going to power on this machine, so that might be why this thing was, they thought it was dead or water damaged. So I had this thing. I'll just build a power supply like I did with the Commodore 64. It can't be that hard, right? I was trying to figure out exactly how I was going to get negative 5 volt without building some sort of circuitry. So I actually was checking on some Atari Age forums, and I found a pinout for the power supply, which is a very unusual power supply. If that looks familiar to you, this is the same power supply that was used on the Texas Instruments TI-99 and TI-99 and the TI-99 4A. Unfortunately, that power supply does not put out not even close to the right voltages or amperages for this. So I had to get a little creative. I could build a 12 volt power supply or find something that could produce it. I could do something with 5 volt, but the negative 5 volt was bugging me. I didn't know of any power brick that's put out negative 5 volt until I was scrolling through an Atari Age forum, and I kind of saw something that I should have known, but I spaced it. Old AT and ATX 1.0 power supplies, the old ones from like the mid to late 90s, still produce negative 5 volt rails for old ISA cards, because some of them actually did need 5 volt. Not a whole lot of them. In fact, I think less than a dozen actually required negative 5 volt. But by the time those power supplies came out, their modern equivalent replacements, sound cards, video cards, modem cards, didn't need negative 5 volt anymore, which is why modern ones got rid of it. So, and I came across this in my bin of parts. It's one, I don't remember what I took it out of, but it is an ATX 1.0 power supply. In fact, actually, I think it's a later one because it has this connector here for CPU 4-pin. So I think this came during the early or the mid Pentium 4s, those early 2000s ones. Specifically, this is a Roseville ACA 400 ATX. Now, Roseville makes amazing makes good power supplies, and they always have. The reason why I'm doing this doing this hacky way, is because they do make reproduction power supplies for the Colecovision, but they're about 50, 60 bucks. And obviously I don't want to drop 60 bucks on a power supply that might not work. Nor do I want to cut up a power supply that uses negative 5 volt that I could use this later in another build. So it's kind of why I'm doing this hacky way, and I'll show you here in a second. First, I need to say, unless you're comfortable around electronics and electrical wiring and doing some shoddy, janky stuff with power supplies, don't try this at home. Seriously. Unless you're comfortable and you've done this kind of stuff before, don't do it. Don't hurt yourself or cause a fire or anything like that. Let's plug this in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I went on to Atari Age and I needed the pinout for the power supply. And I decided to cut the brick off and do this. Now, yes, this is the most shoddy, janky thing you've probably seen anybody do, but this is just to make sure it works. This is just a temporary measure. This is not being hooked up in my game room in any capacity like this. That's why it's in here in the computer room. I'm going to test it on this television here. So what these are is, those are heat shrink. They're called we call them butt connectors in the shop, but they're edge connectors. They're end connectors. You basically cut the wires, strip them, put one end over one end, crimp it, the other broken wire on the other side, crimp it, heat shrink it, and it's supposed to be. There's a lot of people that don't like these because they're not a true permanent repair, because you're supposed to strip the wires and then get a metal, crimp it, solder it, heat shrink it that way. This is just a really generic way of doing it. These are not meant for permanent repairs, even though I have used them as permanent repairs on my own stuff, my truck, my car, my motorcycle. Clearly, this is not permanent. This is just to see if it works. If this works, then I will look into actually either building this properly with a old power supply, or break down and buy one of the replacement ones, which might be something I might do, because I don't plan on getting rid of this console. It's a 80s console. I've been looking for other examples of consoles besides the Atari and the Nintendo. So let's see if this thing works and how it works. Okay, so we got the power end here. So yeah, here's the jank. I have red, which is 12 volt on the yellow wire. Yellow is actually on the white, which is -5. Yellow is +5, so that's on red, and then blue is ground, so that's on black. And I also have ground jumped to green, which is the power switch on sense. Now I should get an image on the TV screen here when I flip the switch on the power supply and on the board. So we're going to try it out. And luckily, I don't need a game in here because this actually has a BIOS that will actually say Coleco, put in a game. So this is kind of a neat way of doing it. So let's try it out. Luckily, I don't need the actual cable. I can just put in a old RCA cable. And one of the best inventions ever. RCA to coaxial. All right, let's hook this up. Okay, we got the TV on. I think it's on the right channel. Okay, let's put the power switch on. Okay, fan's running. And then we're going to flick on that switch and fingers crossed. Ooh, static. Okay. So that's progress. It is working. So let's try the game. And we're going to try Gorf. So yeah, the static I'm not too worried about. Just got to carefully. I'm going to turn the volume down on that. All right, we got the controller. Let's try it out carefully. Huh. The controller's not working. That ain't good. I don't like that at all. I'm gonna go hit Google real quick. Okay, so I can use a Genesis controller. Do I have one? Oh, I have a Genesis. Of course, I have Genesis controllers. Okay, let's try a Genesis controller. I know I shouldn't be messing with this too much since I got this thing kind of like janked together, but I'm curious now. It works. Ooh, it works. What is Gorf? Okay, so the console works. So yeah, while I was googling it for the controller thing, I did kind of was also looking up some stuff about the static, and apparently it's a problem with the RF modulator itself. Basically, the only way to fix it is to either replace the RF modulator with one out of another Colecovision, which that ain't gonna happen, or I composite mod it, which is not that big a deal. Because in all honesty, if that's going to fix it, give me sound and better clear video, because that video is kind of scratchy. I'll just see how much they are on like console 5 or uh, anything else like that. So yeah, I actually think I read something on like Ben Heck's forums. So yeah, um, actually, I'm also going to tear apart the controller real quick. I'm curious as to why that doesn't work. So let's take that apart real quick. Okay, yes, I still have a mess. I'll put this thing together, this Coleco together, here in a second because I'm curious. Looks like there's only there. Oh, there's 5 screws. It's already coming apart. Feels like it's spring loaded. I guess it kind of is. Okay. Oh, okay. So the joystick has a giant spring on it. Cool. Ooh, that doesn't look good. I mean, it's clean, but it doesn't look. Carefully pull this up. Oh. Oh no. There we go. Yeah, there's no connection right there. That ain't good. Yeah, it looks normal, but there's some loose stuff there. How does... Oops, I'll grab that here in a second. Take this last screw out and see if the circuit board comes out. Oh, it does. Oh my god. Look at that. This thing's been repaired like crazy. Well, no wonder this thing's not working. There's probably something majorly wrong with it. Okay. So, yeah, that's why the controller doesn't work. Which is fine. I mean, I guess I have the joystick controller until I can get a new one. Awesome. Okay. But hey, it does work. So that's surprising. This is not going to be like a multi-part video or something. I'm going to put it together and go put it on my game shelf without that power supply hack. And then in the future, I'll get it really working with some more games. I'll see if I can find a source controller or two from somewhere. And might have to break down and get a power supply for it and composite mod it. That's all going to be another video. It's not going to be like this is part one, that's part two. It'll just be an update video for it. Because I also need to test another Atari 2600 and some PS1s. So yeah, with that being said, thank you everyone for watching this video. Actually, I'm kind of surprised it didn't need more work than it did. I mean, obviously it needs composite modded to get the sound and video correct. But the only real way to do that is to composite mod it. But yeah, it does work with a Genesis controller. Gorf works. I've never played Gorf at all. I've heard about it, but it kind of just seemed like it was a Space Invader clone or a Space Invader ISK thing. So, I mean, if that's what it is, why don't they just call it like Coleco Invaders or something? Hey, so I need to fix something real quick. I said that Gorf here was very similar to Space Invaders, and I was basically ignorantly said it was a Space Invaders clone. No, it is not a Space Invaders clone. It's its own entity, its own game. In fact, that's only the first level. The second and third level, I think, are based on Millipede. I'm kind of curious, and I googled it, and turns out this is actually one of the better games with ColecoVision. So yeah, any major fans of Gorf, I apologize for insulting the game by calling it a clone. My bad. Sorry. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching this video. If you like, hit the like button. Comment down below if you have any experience with the ColecoVision. This is actually seems like it could be a fun console if I can get some more games for it. This is one of those consoles that's breaking my. I have a small, ish rule with collecting consoles. That I want at least 5 games for every console because that's a good, that's a good number where you can get a good variety of games so that you can at least get a good glimpse of what the console was capable of back in the day. With only 3 games, in fact, one of them I can't play. Turns out I have Sega's Turbo, which the only way to play that game is with there's a special controller that you need for it, or the steering wheel expansion module, which I don't have. So yeah, that being said, thanks everyone for watching this video. I'm back to be making videos. Basically, yeah, immediately after I got sick, I started having a really bad persistent cough. Not gonna get into any details about it, but it just was persistent and would not go away. So I couldn't even come down here and record for more than about 5 minutes without coughing my lungs out. So it's just personal stuff with that. Anyway, again, with that being said, thanks everyone for watching the video. If you liked it, hit the like button, comment down below any experience you have with the ColecoVision, any games that are, top, must-haves for this console, because I have zero experience with this console, zero experience with it at all, because I never even heard about it until I started getting into collecting games about a decade ago. I never expected to actually find one. If you know where I might be able to source some controllers for this thing, or what's the better ideal aftermarket-ish controller to use with one, because obviously the Genesis controller is not going to work for every game, hit the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel, because every little bit helps. I do have a milestone video coming up, which I think I'm going to be a dork about it and have it be the 486 based. And hit the notification bell to notify when I upload more content, which is going to be coming at a much more, hopefully more consistent base. So that being said, again, thanks everyone for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.